Hey, what's up guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toaster Bros, and today we're going to be building this $550 gaming PC.
And we were able to do this with partnership with Microcenter. Let's talk about Microcenter real quick, shall we?
So also to mention Microcenter, they're actually sponsoring this live stream that we're doing right now. It's happening simultaneously. The chat's actually watching us as we record this because Microcenter is so awesome. We love being able to actually go in person to their stores and get their awesome motherboard CPU combo discounts and honestly all the insane discounts that they have on all of their PC parts.
If you're looking to build your PC and there's a Microcenter nearby, you most definitely should head over to a Microcenter near you and check out all the things they have to offer. And be sure to use the links in the description down below if you do want to shop online at Microcenter. We will leave alternate suggestions for those who can't buy on Microcenter, but they are the sponsor of this video, so definitely check those links down below. How about we go ahead and talk about this PC build and then put it together.
So the processor that we decided to go with is Team Blue. This is the Intel i3-9100F. It's a true quad core, so a lot of you are probably thinking, why Intel? Well, you can get this for like $70, $80, and also the motherboards for them are like stupid cheap right now. So this was actually a little bit cheaper than trying to go with something AMD. It's really hard to find AMD motherboards in stock right now, so with B360Ms and stuff like that being really available, we just decided to go with this. And obviously an alternative would be a 1200AF because those are around $75, and if you can find like an A320M board, you can actually do this for around the same price if you can find that stuff. For the motherboard, we decided to go with the Asus Prime B360MA simply because it looks like toast on the CPU socket. No, not really. This is actually a really good motherboard. It's only around $80 or sometimes less. Also, when you paired these together at Microcenter, we got $20 off. So basically it made it to where this motherboard was like $50, $60. So much better deal than you could get on most places online. That was a really abrupt cut, but good enough.
Now the RAM.
Good enough, thank you. I'll remember that when I get the editor note. That was a really rough cut right there.
For the RAM, we decided to go with Crucial because honestly, some of the best RAM that you can get out there. This is Ballistics DDR4 3200 megahertz, a 16 gig kit, so 2 8 gig sticks. Dual channel is essential, especially for like a quad core like this in a lower end system. You're gonna see some higher FPS just by going dual channel, so highly recommend getting some stuff like this.
And now for the graphics card, we have this Gigabyte RX 5500 XT. Now, this card is starting to become a decent value if you are looking to build like a 1080p medium high settings gaming PC, and it is available at Microcenter. There are some graphics cards that are out of stock right now, and the used market is not so great, so this is actually a pretty decent option from Team Red, and I think it will pair nicely with this quad-core CPU. And as for storage, of course, we had to use a Microcenter in-house brand. This is the Inland Premium SSD 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD. It is super fast, it is enough storage to get you up and running. Of course, if you're playing games like Warzone, we highly suggest opting for a 500 gigabyte NVMe or slapping a hard drive in here if you want to. But yeah, this should be enough to get Windows installed in a couple of games to get you off and running. Now looky here, this is the power supply. Yes, these are kind of hard to find right now, but this is the EVGA 500 watt, 80 plus watt power supply. We used to use this thing a ton in past PC builds, but availability has made it hard to use. But it was available at Microcenter, so this is a decent option to go with if you're doing a budget build or some higher end builds. This is more than enough. 500 watts will give us room to upgrade, and well, it's from EVGA. We trust those guys. And lastly, the case. This is the Thermaltake Versa H18 with tempered glass. This has a nice mesh front panel where we can add some RGB fans if we wanted to in the future, which we didn't. That's very disappointing. I'm really regretting that now. But this will work out really well. It is a micro ATX case with a micro ATX motherboard, so it's gonna be nice and snug in there. And yeah, it's a nice case. Thermaltake makes some pretty awesome products, and I'm very excited to build a PC in it. So let's do it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have this $550 gaming PC all put together, let's talk about those benchmarks, because I bet a lot of you are wondering why we went with this configuration to begin with. Now, the i3-9100F right now, at the time of recording this video, is a really good value, mainly because the motherboards are really cheap to get, and the CPU itself is $70. Yes, it's only a quad-core CPU, and there's offerings like the Ryzen 3 3100 and 3300X on the market, and even the i3-10100 for a little bit more. But if you can't get those available in your region, this might be the next best option for you on the new market. In games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, yes, you are running on a mixture of normal, medium-ish settings. You are getting well over 60 FPS, even paired with this GPU. The RX 5500 XT is definitely no slouch. We have done a PC build with it in the past. If you want to check that video out, hit the I in the top right corner. But this graphics card is definitely capable of pushing out a ton of frames in games like Modern Warfare. Yes, our version only has 4 gigs of VRAM, but it's still more than enough for 1080p medium-ish settings, especially in games like Warzone, which are very demanding. One thing I'm very glad we went with was the 16 gigs of RAM, because that allowed us to get good performance in games that are much more RAM demanding nowadays, like Warzone, and 16 gigs of RAM is starting to become the standard nowadays for a gaming PC. So if you are building something even around the $450 to $500 range, I would highly suggest investing more money into RAM than you think. 8 gigs of RAM is starting to not cut it anymore, and some of our past videos have shown that in some of the newer games we are testing. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is also a great example of how this system is pretty well balanced. Now, we only averaged about 60 FPS on high settings, but that's really impressive for a PC that, well, is $550, and despite all that's going on around the world, can still perform pretty well. Now, I know there's not much of an upgrade path. You're really stuck on 9th gen CPUs, which is a big downer. But again, guys, this is a PC that you could build right now if you wanted to, regardless of what's going on in the world right now with power supply pricing, availability of AMD motherboards, Intel motherboards, everything like that. These are really easy to find right now. Yes, are you making a sacrifice? Totally. You're totally making a sacrifice compared to the Ryzen 3 3100, but we're here to make build guides for you all to consider if you just don't want to wait. There are people out there who just don't want to wait for these PC parts to come back in stock, and if that is you, or if you have a specific use case which is perfectly easily filled by using this processor, I highly recommend you consider it. It is a great value right now. The last game we tested was Overwatch, and of course, esports titles are going to be no problem with this configuration. The 5500 XT and i3-9100F have no problems getting over 60 FPS on high settings. You can run this on Fortnite, Valorant, all those types of games and have no problems whatsoever. A quad-core CPU and a 5500 XT can play pretty much any of those games that come out, so if you're someone who mainly plays esports titles, this PC will make you very happy. So overall, I was pleasantly surprised. When we came up with this video idea, I was a little bit skeptical to see how this i3-9100F would perform, but now that I've seen the benchmarks and did some cost analysis and looked out at the market as a whole right now, the i3-9100F is not a bad option. And if you are somebody commenting down below before watching this benchmarking section, because I know there are people out there who are going to do that, just keep in mind what's going on right now around the world in availability, and just take that into account when deciding if this processor is worth it for you, because in my opinion, it most certainly is. Now, how about we go ahead and bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
So although they have 10th gen out right now, the 9th gen i3 is still a really good option to go with, along with the other 9th gen stuff, just because prices are coming down and the motherboards are really cheap. You can pick up these combos for relatively good prices, especially compared to Ryzen right now, which we usually recommend going Ryzen, but you know, when a motherboard's over $100 for like a cheap one, we don't recommend that.
Yes, you could obviously find a B450 in stock at some point in the future, and if that is an option for you, obviously go that route because you get a better upgrade path, because really here, you're stuck on the 9th generation with this motherboard. Yeah, you can go up to like an i7, but at that point, I mean, you know, you're at the top of what this motherboard can do, but that doesn't mean at $70 it isn't a good value. There just really isn't anything right now at that price point that comes with a motherboard that is also cheap that makes it a worthwhile investment. So while be it it's only a quad core, I still really like this option if you are looking to do a budget PC right now, given what's going on in the world.
We actually live streamed this where we built it on camera and then we gave it away during the live stream. That's actually going to be a once a month thing where Microcenter will be sponsoring us and we'll be building a PC like this and giving it away to you guys. So check out our Twitch right here, twitch.tv/toastybros, and also our other 2 YouTube channels if you haven't checked them out already.
And if you are interested in purchasing the parts for this PC belt, use the links in the description down below. We will link to Microcenter and other places if you can't buy them at Microcenter. But yeah, definitely use Microcenter links if you can because they were nice enough to sponsor this build.
So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Peace.
Good gaming computer.
Good gamers.